The keys feel heavy in my hand as I open the front door of my childhood home, the door my sister said was the last time she would ever open it. Emily's laughter still echoes in my ears, the papers she waved in front of me just a few hours ago, her neatly manicured nails gripping the documents that supposedly brought her everything. My name is Alexandra Chin, and at the age of 32, I never imagined that I'd ever be faced with being homeless. I never thought I would face homelessness, especially at the hands of my own sister. Emily said, her voice filled with the arrogance she'd had since we were children. I sold the house and everything in it is mine. Isn't it funny how things work out? Funny isn't the word I'm looking for. My fingers traced along my father's mahogany desk, recalling all the nights I spent here as a teenager, watching him work and learning about the family business while Emily partied away until college graduation. I smiled slightly as I remembered those words, even as I heard Emily's heels clicking down the hallway toward the study, and she leaned against the doorframe and asked, "Still here? I think I told you to start packing. The new owners want to do a site visit next week." But Dad taught me that real success isn't about what you can show, it's about what you know. Just collecting a few personal items, I said calmly, picking up a framed photo from Dad's desk. It was from my college graduation. I was wearing my graduation cap and gown. Dad was laughing beside me. Emily didn't attend the graduation, claiming that she had an appointment for a spa treatment and couldn't reschedule. Personal items, Emily scoffed. Did you miss the part where everything belongs to me? Now, that includes photos, furniture, and even Dad's prized collection of business journals. I carefully put the photos back in place, noting Emily's eyes narrowed at my composure. She had expected me to be in tears and begging, or even a big fight, but my calmness had clearly thrown her off balance. You know, Emily's funny, I said, walking over to the bookshelf, where Dad kept all of his most important papers. Dad always said that the most valuable things in life aren't always the most obvious. You're broke, I'm rich, you'll be out on the street in no time, and that's all there is to it. But it's not all there is to it. It's not even close. The secret Hong Kong account that only I know how to get into. You're right. I turned back to her. I should start packing. Emily's smug smile faltered slightly at the ease with which I had agreed. I agreed with ease. She had been hoping that I would rebel, that she could portray me in such a dramatic way as an unstable sister who couldn't handle the shock of losing everything. Yes, she was right. Recover quickly and don't even think about taking anything of value. I've cataloged everything worth selling. My heart clenched at her disdain for my dad's life's work, but I kept a neutral expression. I get it. Good luck with that. As I walked past her and out of the study, I could feel her looking at me, probably wondering why I wasn't angrier. She would have expected me to break down and beg for a reconsideration of fighting with her for something that was rightfully mine. When people think they're winning, that's when people think they've won, that's when they're at their weakest. Emily was in a hurry to take everything for herself and miss out on the most important legacy of all. I went to my old bedroom and put the box on my childhood bed. The room looked exactly the same as it did when I was in college. The walls were covered with academic awards and business contest trophies, and Emily's room was still plastered with posters of boy bands and cutouts from fashion magazines. Emily's voice drifted up from downstairs. She was already on the phone with a realtor, discussing listing prices and potential buyers. Let her get ahead of herself, I thought, because in 3 days, when she tried to turn over her dad's company, she realized that sometimes the most valuable legacy isn't listed in any will. Sometimes it's hidden in plain sight, in lessons learned over countless evenings in the den, in relationships built over years of hard work, and in the careful planning of someone who knows exactly what they're doing. I grabbed my suitcase and walked downstairs, passing Emily, who was still chattering about property values, and as I pulled out of the driveway I walked to my car. I caught a glimpse of her standing in the doorway in the rearview mirror with a satisfied smile on her face. Enjoy your victory, I muttered, and turned onto the main road. And the 3 days went by like a slow-motion countdown as I moved into a small apartment downtown that Emily would have considered to be her inferior apartment, but the location didn't matter. What mattered was that it was directly across the street from Dad's company headquarters. I couldn't help but smile when I noticed that Marcus' car was already parked in his usual spot. My cell phone rang, a message from Linda in accounting, who was in conference room B. For 10 years, I've been building these relationships. When Emily posts pictures of exotic vacations on Instagram, I've been learning every aspect of the business. I know every employee's name, understand every contract, and most importantly, I've earned their trust. When I reached the executive floor, the elevator stopped with a dang. As I approached, Marcus greeted me with a knowing smile and I nodded, clutching the folder in my hand with everything we'd been preparing. So let's get started. Emily's head snaps up as we enter the conference room, her eyes narrowing to slits when she sees me. Marcus cleared his throat and slid a document across the table. Actually, Mr. Chen, your father gave you all of his personal property, his house, his car, and his liquid investments, but the company, he paused for a moment and smiled slightly, that's a completely different thing. Emily snatched up the document, her hand shaking slightly as she read it. 2 years ago, I said calmly, right after you told him his business was boring and you'd rather focus on your social media influencing her career. Remember that family dinner? She did remember, I could see it in her eyes, the night she scoffed at her dad's offer for her to learn the business, declaring that she was going to do more than work on import, export. It's not fair, I'm his daughter too, I deserve it. What exactly do you deserve, Emily? My voice is shrill. You've never worked a day in this company. You don't know our people, our customers or our business. The only thing you care about is what you get out of it. Every time you think that his work isn't good enough for you, every time you choose to go to a party over a family dinner, every time you make it clear that his legacy, it means nothing to you. These are your choices. She had tears in her eyes, but I couldn't tell if they were genuine or out of control frustration. Marcus stood up with the file. I think we're done here, Ms. Chen. Your office has to be cleared out by the end of the week. Emily stared at me with a mixture of anger and disbelief on her face. You think you've won, don't you? Like Daddy always said, it's not a matter of winning or not winning, Emily. My answer is to pack my things. It's about protecting what's important. That's what Daddy taught us, if you'll listen. Through the window, I felt a weight on my shoulders. I could see the staff trying to hide their smiles. They all knew this was going to happen. They all kept it a secret until the right time. Marcus put his hand on my shoulder. Your father would be proud of you, Alex. He always said you were the one that understood what was really important. I nodded my head and looked around the room. This office has been my second home for years. He taught me that success isn't about what you have, it's about what you build, what you protect, and who you become in the process. A month after the conference room blowout, I'm sitting in my dad's old office. Now my office is reviewing quarterly reports. The view of the city skyline is the same, but everything else had changed. Emily had made good on her threat to sell the house, and while the buyer had backed out when she found out the house needed major repairs, she'd been too busy posting on social media to properly maintain the house. I took a deep breath, straightened the papers on my desk, and let her in. Emily didn't look quite the same as the last time I'd seen her. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by a more understated outfit, her perfectly coiffed hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, but the biggest change was in her eyes. I leaned back in my chair and studied her. What do you want, Emily? I've been thinking, she said, her voice smaller than I'd ever heard it before, about Dad, about everything he tried to teach us. I didn't understand it then, but I think I'm starting to now. She shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. No, I got what I thought I wanted, but sitting in an empty house going through Dad's things, I found his journals and my heart skipped a beat. Dad's business journals were his most prized possessions, and they contained not only business strategies but lessons in personal reflection that he hoped to teach his 2 daughters. Have you ever read those journals? But you know what hit me the hardest? She pulled a worn leather journal out of her purse and flipped to one of the marked pages, where he wrote, if Emily could see beyond the surface, she would have great potential. Money can be made or lost, but knowledge, wisdom, and relationships are the true measure of wealth. I stood up and walked over to the window that looked out over the city. The sun was setting and the long shadows were cast on the buildings. Dad had pointed it out to me countless times, telling me stories of the trades he had made and the lessons he had learned on each one of them. You're wrong, I said, and finally I turned to face her. You don't have nothing, you have the most valuable thing of all. Dad had tried to give us the opportunity to learn, to grow, to understand what was really important. Her eyes widened. You offered me a job. After everything I had done, I didn't offer it to her. I corrected her offer. You'll start at the bottom, just like me. You'll learn every aspect of the business. There's no special treatment for working. There's no shortcuts. Why are you doing this? I pulled out one of Dad's old journals and opened it up to the last entry he wrote before he died, because Dad believed in second chances. Here he wrote, business is about profit but family is about growth. Sometimes the biggest returns come from investing in people when they are ready to change. As we walked out of the office together, I saw our reflections on the glass wall, two sisters finally on the same starting line, ready to create something meaningful together. Dad always said that the true measure of success is not what you accumulate, but what you create and who you help along the way. As we rode down the elevator together, I realized that this may be the legacy my father always wanted, not just the success of his company, but also the opportunity for his two daughters to learn the true value of his legacy, and that sometimes the greatest victories aren't in winning or losing, but in finding the wisdom to know what is truly worth fighting for.